I spent $15,000 on a surprise Valentine's trip to London, practiced my yes speech for his proposal, and even bought the perfect dress to meet his parents. But when I quietly unlocked his apartment door with the spare key he gave me, I found him on one knee, proposing to my own sister with my grandmother's ring. What I did next destroyed 3 families and exposed a conspiracy that had been brewing for 2 years. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Emma Richardson, and 3 months ago I thought I had the perfect life. At 28, I was the senior marketing director at Morrison & Associates, pulling in a 6-figure salary and living in a downtown Chicago penthouse that most people only dream about. But the crown jewel of my perfect life was David Chin, my fiancé of 8 months, boyfriend of 3 years, and the man I was absolutely certain would be the father of my children. David was everything I thought I wanted. Ambitious, charming, with those dark eyes that made my stomach flutter even after all this time together. He was pursuing his MBA at London Business School, which meant we'd been doing long distance for the past year. The separation was killing me, but I supported his dreams because that's what you do when you love someone, right? I'd fly to London every few months, and he'd come back to Chicago whenever he could manage between classes and his internship at Goldman Sachs. My family loved David almost as much as I did. My parents, Richard and Patricia Richardson, yes, the Richardson Holdings family, had welcomed him with open arms. Dad was impressed by David's business acumen and his plans to join the family company after graduation. Mom adored his polite manners and the way he always brought her those expensive macarons from Harrods whenever he visited. Even my younger sister Maya seemed to approve, which was honestly shocking because Maya had never approved of any of my boyfriends. Maya was complicated. At 25, she was the family's perpetual problem child. Beautiful, intelligent, but completely directionless. She dropped out of 3 different colleges, bounced between jobs like a ping-pong ball, and had a string of relationships that ended in drama and usually tears. Dad had tried everything, cutting off her trust fund, forcing her into therapy, even threatening to write her out of the will entirely. Nothing worked. Maya just drifted through life, leaving chaos in her wake. But lately Maya seemed different. More settled, less dramatic. She'd even started helping Mom with her charity events and had mentioned looking into going back to school. I was proud of her, honestly. Seemed like she was finally growing up. The idea for the Valentine's surprise came to me in January. David had been hinting about something big happening soon. The way he'd get this secretive smile when I asked about his plans after graduation, how he'd quickly change the subject whenever I mentioned our future together. I was 99% sure he was going to propose, and I wanted to beat him to the punch with a romantic gesture of my own. I spent weeks planning every detail. The $15,000 wasn't just for the flight, though the last-minute first-class ticket to London was expensive enough. I'd booked us a weekend at the Savoy, made reservations at all his favorite restaurants, and even arranged for a private tour of the British Museum because David was obsessed with ancient history. I bought a stunning red dress from Valentino that cost more than most people's rent, perfect for meeting his parents who were flying in from Hong Kong that same weekend. But the most important part of my preparation was practicing my response to his proposal. I knew it was coming. I could feel it in every phone call, every text message. David had been asking strange questions about my ring size, about my grandmother's jewelry collection, about whether I preferred traditional or modern settings. So I stood in front of my bathroom mirror every morning, practicing my surprised expression, my tearful yes, the perfect way to throw my arms around him when he slipped the ring on my finger. I even called my grandmother's nurse to ask about borrowing the family ring, the one that had been passed down through Richardson women for 4 generations. Grandma Rose had worn it when she married my grandfather in 1952. My mother had worn it at her wedding. I'd always dreamed of wearing it at mine. But the nurse told me something strange. Someone had already come to collect it weeks ago. Someone from the family, she said, though she couldn't remember who. I didn't think much of it at the time. Mom had probably retrieved it to have it cleaned or appraised. She was always fussing over the family heirlooms, making sure they were properly maintained and insured. I made a mental note to ask her about it when I got back from London. The flight to London was pure torture. Not because of the journey but because of the anticipation. I kept imagining David's face when he opened the door and found me standing there with champagne and roses. I pictured us walking through Hyde Park hand in hand, maybe stopping at the very spot where he'd get down on one knee. I had our entire romantic weekend mapped out in my head, right down to the playlist I'd created for when we were alone in the hotel room. Looking back now, I can't believe how naive I was. How completely, utterly blind to what was really happening while I was busy planning the perfect surprise. If I'd paid attention to the signs, Maya's mysterious new maturity, the strange questions about the family ring, David's evasive answers about his living situation, maybe I would have seen it coming. But I didn't see it coming. Not even close. The taxi pulled up to David's building in South Kensington at exactly 2:47 p.m. London time. I remember checking my phone because I wanted to document every moment of this perfect surprise. My hands were shaking with excitement as I paid the driver, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. This was it, the moment I'd been dreaming about for weeks. David lived in a converted Victorian townhouse that had been split into luxury student apartments. His place was on the second floor, a cozy one-bedroom that his parents helped him afford. I'd stayed there dozens of times during my previous visits, and I knew every creaky floorboard, every stubborn door handle, every quirk of his ancient heating system. The spare key he'd given me 6 months ago was still on my keychain, right next to my car keys and the little silver heart he'd bought me for our 2-year anniversary. I climbed the narrow staircase slowly, trying to control my breathing. What if he wasn't home? What if he was in class or at the library? I hadn't told him I was coming. That would have ruined the surprise. But it was Valentine's Day afternoon, and I was hoping he'd be home getting ready for whatever evening plans he thought he had. As I reached his floor, I could hear voices coming from inside his apartment. Good, he was definitely home. But wait, there were 2 voices. A man's voice that was definitely David's and a woman's voice that sounded familiar but I couldn't quite place it. Maybe he had a study partner over? David often mentioned his classmates and several of them were women. I felt a tiny flutter of jealousy but pushed it down. I trusted David completely. I stood outside his door for a moment, listening. The woman was laughing at something David said, a light, musical sound that made me smile despite my nerves. David always had been charming and funny. I pulled out my phone to start recording. I wanted to capture his reaction when I surprised him. The spare key slid into the lock silently. I turned it slowly, my heart now beating so hard I was sure they'd hear it through the door. I pushed the door open just a crack, enough to peer inside, planning to burst in with a cheerful surprise. But the word died in my throat. David was in the living room, down on one knee in front of the sofa. His back was to me, but I could see he was holding a small velvet box, the kind that holds engagement rings. For a split second, my brain tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Maybe he was practicing? Maybe he was showing the ring to a friend, getting a woman's opinion before he proposed to me? Then the woman said yes in a voice choked with tears, and I saw her face clearly for the first time. It was Maya. My sister Maya, sitting on David's sofa in a flowing white dress, her dark hair styled in soft waves, her hands pressed to her mouth in shock and delight. My sister Maya, extending her left hand so David could slide a ring onto her finger. But it wasn't just any ring. Even from across the room, even through the haze of shock that was rapidly clouding my vision, I recognized it immediately. The Art Deco setting with its geometric pattern of diamonds surrounding a perfect 2-carat solitaire. The delicate platinum band that had been sized and resized for 4 generations of Richardson women. It was my grandmother's ring. The ring I'd been dreaming of wearing. The ring that was supposed to be mine. I watched in frozen horror as David kissed Maya's hand, as she threw her arms around his neck, as they embraced like lovers who'd been separated for years instead of whatever this was. My brain was struggling to process what I was seeing, like a computer trying to run software it wasn't designed for. I can't believe we're really doing this, Maya whispered against David's ear, loud enough for me to hear through the crack in the door. After everything we've been through, all the sneaking around, all the lies. I know, baby, David murmured back, his voice tender in a way I'd thought was reserved only for me. But it's going to be worth it. Once we're married, once the baby comes, everything will fall into place exactly like we planned. Baby. The word hit me like a physical blow. Maya was pregnant? Since when? How was that even possible? I'd just seen her 2 weeks ago at Mom's birthday dinner, and she'd looked completely normal. She'd even had wine with dinner, I remembered clearly, because Dad had made some joke about Maya finally developing sophisticated taste. But as I looked at her now, really looked at her, I could see the subtle changes I'd missed before. The slight fullness in her face, the way her dress draped over what might have been a small bump, the glow that I'd attributed to her recent lifestyle changes but now realized was something else entirely. "How far along are you now?" David asked, his hand moving protectively to Maya's stomach. 24 weeks, she said, and my entire world tilted sideways. 24 weeks. 6 months. Maya had been pregnant for 6 months, which meant... I did the math frantically in my head, counting back through the months, through all the times David had visited Chicago, all the family dinners Maya had attended, all the conversations we'd had about her supposed transformation. 6 months ago, David had been in Chicago for my birthday. He'd stayed for a week, sleeping in my bed, meeting my colleagues, charming my parents at the family barbecue. Maya had been there too, playing the role of supportive little sister, complimenting David on his business insights, laughing at his jokes. The same week I'd given him the spare key to my apartment, Maya had apparently been giving him something else entirely. "Are you sure Emma doesn't suspect anything?" Maya asked, settling back into the sofa cushions with David's hand still resting on her stomach. "She's been asking weird questions about the ring, and Mom said she called Grandma Rose's nurse." My blood turned to ice water in my veins. They were talking about me. About how I didn't know. About how they'd been lying to me. David laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was like a knife twisting in my chest. "Emma's too trusting for her own good. She believes everything I tell her. Besides, she's so busy with her career and planning our future that she doesn't pay attention to what's happening right in front of her. I still can't believe she bought that story about you needing space to focus on your studies." Maya giggled, the sound making me nauseous. 6 months of barely any physical contact and she just accepted it. God, David, sometimes I think my sister is actually stupid. The casual cruelty in her voice hit me harder than anything else. This wasn't just betrayal. This was contempt. My own sister thought I was stupid. The man I loved thought I was a naive fool. "She's not stupid," David said, and for a moment I felt a flicker of hope that he would defend me. "She's just predictable. Emma always does exactly what you'd expect her to do. She's reliable, stable, boring. Nothing like you, baby." The hope died as quickly as it had sparked to life. "When did you first realize you wanted me instead of her?" Maya asked, curling into David's side like a contented cat. David was quiet for a moment, stroking Maya's hair. "Honestly, that first Christmas dinner at your parents' house 2 years ago. Emma was going on and on about her 5-year business plan, her investment portfolio, her ideas for expanding the family company. And you were sitting there in that red dress, rolling your eyes at her ambition, making sarcastic comments under your breath. You were real, you know? Not putting on some perfect performance like Emma always does. 2 years ago. They'd been planning this for 2 years. While I was introducing David to my friends, while I was talking about our future, while I was falling deeper in love with him every day, he was falling in love with my sister. I remember that night," Maya said dreamily. "You followed me out to the garden when I went to smoke. You said Emma would never approve of her perfect boyfriend talking to her screwed-up little sister. But I didn't care what Emma thought," David continued. "I wanted to know the real you, not the version you performed for your family. When you told me about dropping out of Northwestern, about your ex-boyfriend who got you into drugs, about feeling like you'd never live up to Emma's perfect example, I knew you were the one I really wanted." "And when did we cross the line?" Maya asked, though something in her tone suggested she already knew the answer and just wanted to hear him say it. "Your birthday party last year. Emma had that conference in Seattle, remember? She asked me to check on you because she was worried you'd get drunk and do something stupid at your party." "I did get drunk," Maya laughed. "Just not stupid. Well, not entirely stupid." "You were perfect," David said, kissing the top of her head. "You were crying in your bedroom, talking about how everyone expected you to fail, how you were tired of being the disappointment. I just wanted to comfort you, and then we couldn't stop," Maya finished. Even though we both knew it was wrong. Even though we both knew it would destroy Emma. I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep from making a sound. They'd been together for over a year. An entire year of lying to my face, of David kissing me while he was sleeping with my sister, of family dinners where they probably shared secret looks across the table while I chatted obliviously about wedding plans. The pregnancy wasn't planned, Maya said suddenly, her voice taking on a more serious tone. I know we talked about waiting until after you graduated, until after I married Emma for her family connections and money, David said bluntly, and I felt like he'd punched me in the stomach. But honestly, baby, this might be better. The pregnancy gives us the perfect excuse. Emma's family will have to accept us together once they know about the baby. You really think they'll cut Emma off? Maya asked. Dad's always favored her. She's the responsible one, the successful one. Think about it logically, David said, and I could hear the calculating tone creeping into his voice. The same tone he used when discussing business strategies. Your parents are traditional. Family honor matters to them. When they find out their older daughter's fiancé got their younger daughter pregnant, they'll blame Emma for not keeping me satisfied. They'll see it as her failure as a woman. Maya was quiet for a moment. That's actually pretty horrible, David. Emma's not responsible for you cheating. But that's not how your father will see it, is it? David pressed. He'll see it as Emma being too focused on her career, too independent, too unwilling to prioritize her relationship. And your mother will side with him because she's always worried about Emma ending up alone. And they'll rally around me because I'm pregnant and need support, Maya said slowly, understanding dawning in her voice. Exactly. Plus, I'll be the father of their first grandchild. The Richardson family heir. Your father's been talking for years about wanting grandchildren to carry on the family name. But what about Emma's inheritance? Maya asked, and I could hear the greed creeping into her voice. She's supposed to get controlling interest in Richardson Holdings when Dad retires. David's laugh was cold and calculating. That's the beautiful part, baby. I've been working on this for months. Your father's been confiding in me about the business, asking my opinion on succession planning. He's old-fashioned enough to believe that a man should be the head of the family empire, but Emma doesn't have any brothers. So you're going to be his son-in-law either way, Maya said, understanding. Better than that. I'm going to be the father of his grandson. And a grandson trumps a daughter every time in Richard Richardson's worldview. David's voice was taking on that excited tone he got when he talked about a particularly clever business deal. He's already mentioned rewriting his will once we have children. He wants to make sure the family business stays in the family name. My hands were shaking so badly I had to brace myself against the doorframe. They weren't just planning to steal my fiancé and break my heart. They were planning to steal my entire future, my inheritance, everything I'd worked for my entire life. This is so much bigger than I realized, Maya whispered. I thought we were just, I don't know, following our hearts or whatever. But you've been planning to take over my family's entire empire. Our family's empire, David corrected smoothly. Once we're married, once our son is born, it'll be our empire. We'll run Richardson Holdings together. Your father will finally have the son he always wanted, and you'll finally have the respect you've always deserved. What about Emma? Maya asked, and for a moment I thought I heard a note of guilt in her voice. What about her? Emma's tough, she's successful, she'll land on her feet. She'll probably thank us eventually for saving her from a loveless marriage. Deep down she has to know we're not really compatible. She's all business and ambition, and I need someone who understands the importance of family, of building something lasting. She really loves you though, Maya said quietly. I've seen the way she looks at you. She's planning your whole future together. She loves the idea of me, David said dismissively. She loves having the perfect fiancé to complete her perfect life. But she doesn't know the real me. You do. You know I have dreams bigger than just being Emma's husband and joining her family business as some kind of trophy spouse. So what's the timeline? Maya asked, and I could hear her shifting on the sofa. When do we tell everyone? I need to be strategic about this. My student visa expires in 6 months, and I need to secure my status before then. Marrying Emma would solve that problem, but marrying you works even better because of the pregnancy. My blood ran cold. David was using both of us for immigration purposes. Everything he told me about loving me, about wanting to build a life together in America, about joining the family business because he believed in our vision, it was all lies. I was just a green card to him. We need to time this perfectly, David continued, his voice taking on that strategic tone I'd fallen in love with but now made me sick. I'll go back to Chicago next week for that business conference your father invited me to. I'll spend time with Emma, let her think everything is normal. Maybe I'll even propose to her just to throw off any suspicion. You're going to propose to my sister? Maya's voice went sharp with jealousy. A fake proposal, baby. Just to buy us more time. I'll tell her I want a long engagement while I finish school. Meanwhile, you'll start showing more obviously and we'll let your parents figure it out naturally. How? Maya demanded. You'll start getting sick at family dinners. Morning sickness, you know. Your mother will put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly. Then when she confronts you, you'll break down and confess everything. How we fell in love, how we tried to fight it, how we know it's wrong but we can't help ourselves. And Emma? Emma will be devastated, obviously. But here's the genius part. We make it look like she drove me away. Like her obsession with work and her controlling nature pushed me into your arms. Your parents will blame her for not being woman enough to keep her man happy. The cruelty of it took my breath away. They weren't just planning to betray me. They were planning to gaslight me to make everyone believe it was my fault. David, that's horrible, Maya said, but she didn't sound like she was going to refuse to go along with it. It's survival, Maya. In business, in love, in life, you do what you have to do to get what you want. Emma would understand that if she wasn't so blinded by her naive romantic fantasies. What if she fights back? Emma's not exactly a pushover when it comes to business. What can she do? The baby is proof of our relationship. The family will have to choose sides and they'll choose the side with their grandchild. Emma will be outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and out of options. You've really thought this through, Maya said, and I could hear a note of admiration in her voice that made me want to vomit. I've been thinking about it for 2 years, baby. Every family dinner, every business conversation with your father, every night lying next to Emma and pretending to be happy, I've been planning our future. There's just one problem, Maya said, and I heard her moving around on the sofa. Emma's not stupid, David. She's going to figure out the timeline. 6 months pregnant means this baby was conceived while you were still very much engaged to her. That's why we're going to lie about the timeline, David said matter-of-factly. We'll say you're only 3 months along. Your doctor visits have all been private, paid for in cash. There's no paper trail Emma can follow. Maya was quiet for a moment. Dr. Peterson knows the real dates, David. He's been my doctor since I was 16. My parents will ask him directly. Then we'll find a new doctor who'll cooperate with our story. Money talks, Maya. Your family has plenty of it and doctors are just people. Everyone has a price. The casual way he talked about bribing medical professionals, about falsifying pregnancy records, made my skin crawl. This wasn't just infidelity. This was fraud on multiple levels. What about my friends? Maya asked. I've told some of them about the pregnancy. Jessica knows I've been seeing someone secretly for over a year. Jessica's a drug addict who can barely remember what she had for breakfast, David said dismissively. If she says anything, we'll just claim her memory is compromised by her substance abuse. Who's going to believe a junkie over the Richardson family? Maya laughed, actually laughed at this casual destruction of her friend's credibility. God, you're ruthless. I love it. I learned from the best, David said. Your father didn't build Richardson Holdings by being nice to people. He crushed his competition, bought out smaller companies, destroyed careers when it served his purposes. I'm just applying his business principles to our personal situation. And if Emma tries to fight the will changes? She knows corporate law better than any of us. Emma's expertise is in marketing and brand management, not estate law. By the time she figures out what's happening, the new will structure will already be in place. Your father's been talking to his lawyers for weeks about setting up trust funds for future grandchildren. I felt physically sick. While I'd been planning romantic surprises and dreaming about our wedding, David had been manipulating my father into restructuring his will. How many private conversations had they had? How many times had David played the role of devoted future son-in-law while secretly planning to steal everything from me? The immigration angle is brilliant too, Maya continued. Even if Emma somehow proves we've been together longer, you'll still need to stay in the country for the baby. The authorities won't separate a father from his American-born child. Exactly. And once I have permanent residency through marriage to you, I'll be untouchable. Emma can scream fraud all she wants, but I'll be legally protected. What about your parents? Don't they expect you to marry Emma? They've met her, they love her. David's voice turned cold. My parents are in Hong Kong. They'll never know the difference. I'll tell them the engagement to Emma didn't work out, that I found true love with her sister. They'll be happy as long as I'm successful and married to someone from a wealthy family. You really think this will work? Maya asked, and I could hear vulnerability creeping into her voice for the first time. Baby, I've been planning this for 2 years. I've studied your family dynamics, your father's business patterns, your mother's social expectations. I know exactly which buttons to push and when to push them. Emma's the predictable one, remember? She'll react exactly how I expect her to react. How do you think she'll react? Maya asked quietly. First, shock and devastation. She'll probably cry, maybe scream a little. Then she'll try to fight back, but she'll do it the wrong way. She'll try to use logic and evidence instead of emotion. Your parents won't want to hear facts and timelines when their daughter is pregnant and needs support. And then she'll get angry and make threats. She'll probably threaten to cut ties with the family, which will just make your parents more convinced that she's selfish and ungrateful. Eventually, she'll realize she has no leverage and no allies, and she'll either accept the situation or remove herself from it entirely. You mean she'll leave Chicago? Probably. Emma's too proud to stick around and watch us build the life she thought she was going to have. She'll take some job in New York or Los Angeles, start over somewhere else. It'll be better for everyone, really. The casual way he was planning to erase me from my own life was breathtaking in its cruelty. They weren't just stealing my fiancé and my family. They were expecting me to quietly disappear so they could live happily ever after with my inheritance. I feel bad about Emma, Maya said suddenly. I know she's always been perfect and I've always been the screw-up, but she's still my sister. This is going to destroy her. Maya, listen to me, David said, his voice taking on that persuasive tone I'd heard him use in business meetings. Emma has had everything handed to her since the day she was born. The best schools, the best opportunities, your parents' complete approval and support. You've had to fight for scraps your entire life. That's true, Maya admitted. This is your chance to finally get what you deserve. To be the daughter your parents are proud of, to have the successful husband, to give them their first grandchild. Emma will survive this because Emma always survives. But you might not get another chance like this. You're right, Maya said, and I could hear her resolve strengthening. Emma's always been the golden child. It's my turn now. We need to start preparing for the reveal, David said, and I could hear him getting up from the sofa. Your parents are flying to London next week for that charity gala, right? The one Emma was supposed to attend with me. Yes, the International Children's Fund dinner at the Savoy, Maya confirmed. Mom's been planning her outfit for months. She's so excited to show off her future son-in-law to all her society friends. My heart clenched. I'd completely forgotten about the gala. Mom had been talking about it for weeks, about how proud she was going to be introducing David to the London social scene, about how it would be perfect practice for our wedding reception networking. Perfect. We'll arrange for them to accidentally discover us together. Maybe they'll come by my apartment unexpectedly and find us here, clearly domestic and settled. How do we make sure they come here? Maya asked. I'll tell your mother I'm feeling unwell and can't make it to the pre-gala dinner. I'll suggest she and your father stop by to check on me. Meanwhile, you'll be here taking care of me, playing the devoted girlfriend. What if Emma's with them? She won't be. Emma's supposed to arrive tomorrow for Valentine's Day, but I'll text her tonight saying I have to cancel our plans due to a family emergency. I'll tell her to postpone her trip for a few days. The manipulation was staggering. While I was sitting in Chicago airport lounges, already on my way to surprise him, David was planning to cancel our Valentine's Day plans to set up a scene with my sister. God, you're diabolical, Maya laughed. What kind of family emergency? I'll say my grandmother in Hong Kong is in the hospital. Emma will be sympathetic and understanding like she always is. She'll probably send flowers and offer to help however she can. The accuracy of that prediction hit me like a slap. He was right. I would absolutely respond that way. I would send flowers, I would offer to help with travel arrangements, I would probably even research the best hospitals in Hong Kong in case he needed medical recommendations. So when my parents find us here together, what's our story? Maya asked. We'll say we've been struggling with our feelings for months, trying to do the right thing, trying to stay away from each other out of respect for Emma. But when I got the news about my grandmother, you were the only one who could comfort me. Because Emma's so busy with work she doesn't have time for emotional support? Maya suggested. Exactly. We'll paint a picture of you being there for me in ways Emma never was. You understanding my cultural background, my family obligations, my emotional needs. That's actually not entirely untrue, Maya said thoughtfully. Emma does get weird about feelings sometimes. She always tries to solve emotional problems with practical solutions. See? The best lies are built on kernels of truth. Your parents will recognize the dynamic because they've seen it before. I wanted to scream. Yes, I tried to solve problems practically. That's what you do when you love someone. When David was stressed about school, I researched study techniques. When he was homesick, I learned to cook his favorite Chinese dishes. When he was worried about his visa status, I connected him with immigration lawyers. How was that wrong? And when they ask about the baby? Maya pressed. We'll break down and confess. We'll say we know it's wrong, we know it hurts Emma, but we can't help how we feel. We'll promise to tell Emma together as a family so she has support when she hears the news. That's actually thoughtful, Maya said, sounding surprised. I'm not a monster, Maya. I don't want to hurt Emma unnecessarily. I just want to be with you and I want us to have the life we deserve. The twisted logic was almost impressive. He was convinced he was being kind by orchestrating an elaborate deception that would destroy my life, steal my inheritance, and exile me from my own family. What if Emma figures out we're lying about the timeline? Maya asked again. She's going to do the math, David. She's going to realize this baby was conceived when you were still sleeping with her. Were we still sleeping together 6 months ago? David asked, and my blood turned to ice. What do you mean? I mean, I've been finding excuses to avoid physical intimacy with Emma for months now. The stress of school, being tired from studying, not wanting to complicate our relationship before graduation. She's been frustrated, but she's been accepting it because she thinks I'm being respectful. The room started spinning around me. He was right. Our physical relationship had been declining for months, and I'd attributed it to the stress of long-distance dating and his academic pressure. I'd actually admired his restraint, his focus on building our emotional connection rather than just the physical one. So you've been rejecting Emma while sleeping with me, Maya said slowly. I've been transitioning from one relationship to another, David corrected. By the time this baby was conceived, Emma and I were essentially just friends who happened to be engaged. That's not how Emma will see it. Emma's perspective doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that we can prove to your parents that our relationship is real and meaningful, not just some sordid affair. How do we prove that? With this, David said, and I heard him moving around the room. I've been documenting our relationship for months. Photos, text messages, emails. I have evidence going back over a year showing the development of our feelings for each other. You've been planning this for that long? Maya, I don't do anything without a plan. Show me, Maya said, and I heard the rustle of papers being spread out on the coffee table. Look at this, David said, his voice filled with pride at his own scheming. Text messages between us from last March, right after your birthday party. You can see the emotional progression from friendship to something deeper. Oh my God, you saved all of these? Maya's voice was filled with amazement. David, there are hundreds of messages here. Screenshots of every meaningful conversation. Look at this one from June. You're telling me about feeling invisible in your family, and I'm offering emotional support. And here's one from August where you're saying you've never felt understood by anyone the way I understand you. My stomach churned as I realized what he'd done. He'd been building a case file against me, documenting every moment of vulnerability my sister had shared with him, turning her genuine emotions into evidence for their fraud. This looks like we were having an emotional affair for months before anything physical happened, Maya observed. Because we were. That's exactly what your parents need to see, that this wasn't just lust or a moment of weakness. This was two people falling in love despite their best efforts to do the right thing. What about photos? I've got those too. Here's one from that family barbecue last summer. You can see us talking in the background while Emma's busy with the grill. And this one from your cousin's wedding in September. We're dancing together while Emma's networking with her business contacts. The casual cruelty of it was staggering. He'd been collecting evidence of my supposed failures as a girlfriend while actively pursuing my sister. Every time I'd been working, networking, or simply being myself, he'd been photographing it as proof that I was neglecting him. Jesus, David. You even have pictures of us from last Christmas, Maya said, her voice dropping to a whisper. The night Emma worked late on that merger deal, remember? You and I ended up talking until 3 a.m. about your dreams, your future plans. Your mother came downstairs and found us on the couch together, just talking. Mom did seem suspicious that night, Maya admitted. She asked me later if I had feelings for you. What did you tell her? I lied, obviously. I said you were like a brother to me and I was just grateful to have someone who didn't judge me for my mistakes. Perfect. So when we show her these photos and messages, it'll confirm what she already suspected. Mothers always know, Maya. She's probably been waiting for this revelation. The manipulation was masterful and horrifying. He'd been priming my own mother to accept their relationship, making her feel like she'd been insightful rather than betrayed. What about Dad? Maya asked. He's not as emotionally intuitive as Mom. Your father responds to logic and business sense. I've been having conversations with him for months about family legacy, about the importance of having sons to carry on the Richardson name. He's been frustrated that Emma shows no interest in having children anytime soon. Emma wants kids, Maya protested weakly. But not right now. She's always talking about waiting until her career is more established, until she makes partner, until the timing is perfect. Your father sees that as putting business before family and he doesn't respect it. He was right and I hated that he was right. I had been talking about waiting a few more years before starting a family. I wanted to establish myself in my career, to prove I could handle both professional success and motherhood. But to my traditional father, that probably did sound like I was prioritizing work over family values. So when Dad finds out about the baby, Maya said slowly, he'll see it as proof that I understand what's really important. Family first, business second. He'll respect that I'm willing to take responsibility for my child, even if it complicates other relationships. And Emma will look like the career-obsessed woman who drove her man into the arms of her more nurturing sister, Maya finished. You're finally starting to understand the bigger picture, David said approvingly. This isn't just about us being together. This is about positioning ourselves as the future of the Richardson family dynasty. What happens after the baby is born? Maya asked. I mean, long term. Are we really going to take over the family business? Why not? I have an MBA from London Business School. You have natural people skills and family connections. Together we'll be unstoppable. Your father's getting older and he needs someone he can trust to carry on his legacy. But Emma's been groomed for that role her entire life. Emma's been groomed to be a successful employee, not a leader. There's a difference. Leaders inspire loyalty, they understand human nature, they know how to get people to follow them willingly. Emma manages through intimidation and competence, but that only works to a point. You really think we can do it? Maya, look at what we've accomplished already. We've orchestrated a complete reversal of family dynamics without anyone suspecting a thing. We've documented a love story that will convince your parents we're meant to be together. We've positioned ourselves to inherit everything while making it look like Emma's own choices led to her downfall. It does sound kind of incredible when you put it like that, Maya admitted. Because it is incredible. We're rewriting the entire Richardson family story, and we're the heroes of our own narrative. The grandiosity of his delusion was breathtaking. In his mind, they weren't lying, cheating, manipulative fraudsters. They were romantic heroes fighting against unfair circumstances to claim their rightful destiny. I love you, Maya said suddenly, her voice thick with emotion. I love you too, baby. More than I ever loved Emma, more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. The words hit me like physical blows, each one stripping away another layer of the life I'd thought I was building. After the baby is born, when everything settles down, we'll need to think about Emma's future, David said, his voice taking on that strategic tone again. She's going to need help moving on, building a new life. What kind of help? Maya asked, and I could hear genuine curiosity in her voice. I've actually been researching job opportunities for her. There's a marketing position opening up at Goldman Sachs in Singapore, prestigious, high-paying, exactly the kind of challenge Emma thrives on. Far enough away that she won't be a constant reminder of the past, but respectable enough that your parents will be proud of her success. The audacity took my breath away. He was already planning my exile, researching jobs to ship me off to the other side of the world so he and Maya could play house with my inheritance. Singapore? That's literally the opposite side of the globe, Maya said. Exactly. Clean break, fresh start. Emma's smart and capable, she'll build a new life there. Probably meet someone more compatible with her personality. Someone who appreciates her workaholic tendencies. You've really thought of everything, Maya said, and I could hear admiration mixed with something that might have been guilt in her voice. I have to think of everything. Your family's wealth comes with responsibilities, Maya. We can't just think about what we want. We have to think about what's best for everyone involved. Even Emma? Especially Emma. Staying in Chicago, watching us raise our children, seeing your parents dote on their grandchildren while knowing she could have had that life. That would destroy her. She's better off starting fresh somewhere else. The twisted kindness of it made me sick. He genuinely believed he was doing me a favor by planning to drive me out of my own city, away from my own family. What about the wedding? Maya asked suddenly. I mean, our wedding. When do we do it? Soon after your parents discover us. We'll have a small, tasteful ceremony, something that emphasizes the seriousness of our commitment rather than celebrating the circumstances. Your mother will want to plan something beautiful but understated. And Emma? Do we invite her? David was quiet for a long moment. We'll invite her, but she won't come. Emma's too proud to watch her ex-fiancé marry her sister. She'll probably send a polite gift with a note wishing us well, but she won't be there. How can you be so sure? As I know Emma. She'll want to maintain her dignity above all else. She'll play the gracious older sister publicly while privately planning her escape from Chicago. The horrible thing was he wasn't wrong. The Emma they knew, the predictable Emma who always did what was expected of her, probably would react exactly that way. But sitting there in the hallway listening to them plan my destruction, I could feel something changing inside me. The Emma they thought they knew was disappearing, being replaced by someone harder, angrier, and far less predictable. I keep thinking about that night at the hospital, Maya said suddenly, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. What hospital? David asked, confusion in his voice. Last month when Dad had that chest pain scare. Remember? Emma was in Seattle for that conference and Mom called everyone to come to the emergency room. Oh right. Your dad was fine, just stress and too much coffee. But we were there together sitting in the waiting room for hours. And you were holding my hand and Mom saw us. She said something about how nice it was that I had support during a scary time. I remember, David said softly. Emma doesn't know about that night. She flew back the next morning, but by then Dad was already discharged and everything was fine. She never knew we were there together. Maya, what are you trying to say? I'm trying to say that maybe we're not as good at hiding this as we think we are. Maybe people have already noticed things and they're just waiting for us to make it official. You think your parents already suspect? I think Mom does. The way she looks at us sometimes, the way she asks me about you when Emma's not around. And Dad's been talking to you more about business lately, asking your opinion on things he never used to discuss with outsiders. Maybe they want me to be with you instead of Emma, David said slowly, as if the thought was just occurring to him. What if Emma was never their first choice for you? Maya continued. What if they were just being polite because you were already with her, but secretly they think you and I are better matched? The possibility hung in the air between them, and I felt another piece of my world crumble. Were my own parents conspirators in this betrayal? Had they been hoping for exactly this outcome? Your mother did say something interesting at Christmas, David said thoughtfully. She mentioned that you've been different lately, more mature, more focused. She said it was like you'd found something worth fighting for. She said that. She said she hadn't seen you this happy since before your problems started. She wondered if you'd met someone special. And what did you tell her? I told her that good things come to those who wait, and that sometimes the best relationships develop slowly, built on friendship and understanding rather than just passion. God, David, you were telling her about us without actually telling her. I was preparing her for the possibility. When she finds out about us, she'll remember that conversation and realize I was trying to be honest with her in the only way I could. You're incredible, Maya breathed. Even when you're lying, you're somehow telling the truth. The best strategy is always to work with people's existing beliefs and desires rather than against them, David said. Your parents want you to be happy and settled. They want me to be part of the family. They want grandchildren. We're just giving them everything they want in a package they didn't expect. There's just one more thing we need to discuss, David said, his voice becoming more serious. What happens when Emma inevitably tries to fight back? What do you mean? Maya asked, though I could hear tension creeping into her voice. Emma's not going to just accept this quietly. She's going to be angry, she's going to feel betrayed, and she's going to want revenge. We need to be prepared for whatever she might try to do. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it through the door. They were right. I wasn't going to accept this quietly. But hearing them plan for my reaction was both terrifying and oddly empowering. What could she really do, though? Maya asked. I mean, once everyone knows about the baby, once we're married, what leverage does she have? Emma's smart and she has resources. She might try to expose the real timeline of our relationship. She might hire private investigators, dig through our communications, try to prove we've been lying about when this all started. But you said you had everything covered. I do, but Emma knows us both better than anyone else. She might find inconsistencies we haven't thought of. She might remember conversations or events that contradict our story. I felt a cold smile spread across my face as I continued recording on my phone. They were right to be worried. I was already finding inconsistencies, and I was standing in their hallway listening to them plan my destruction in real time. What's the worst thing she could do? Maya pressed. She could go nuclear, David said grimly. She could call a family meeting and lay out everything she suspects, demand DNA tests, threaten legal action. She could try to turn your parents against us by making us look like scheming manipulators. But that would just make her look bitter and jealous, right? Maybe. Or it might make her look like someone fighting for the truth. Emma's always been seen as the rational, trustworthy daughter. If she presents a compelling case, your parents might listen. So what do we do if that happens? We stick to our story, but we also have a backup plan. If Emma gets too close to the truth, we accelerate our timeline. We get married immediately, maybe even elope. Once we're legally married and the baby is born, it becomes much harder for anyone to undo what we've built. Elope. Maya sounded uncertain. But Mom's been dreaming of planning my wedding. It might be the only wedding she gets to plan if Emma never gets married. Maya, we might not have a choice. If Emma starts causing problems, we need to present a united front as quickly as possible. We can always have a big celebration later after things settle down. And if she tries to contest Dad's will changes? That's where things could get really messy, David admitted. Emma knows corporate law better than we do. If she can prove fraud or undue influence, she might be able to challenge the inheritance restructuring. But the baby changes everything, right? Dad's not going to disinherit his grandchild. No, but he might find a way to protect Emma's interests while still providing for our child. Split inheritance, trust funds with conditions, that sort of thing. We could end up with less than we're planning for. How much less? Instead of controlling the entire Richardson empire, we might only get a substantial portion of it. Still enough to live very comfortably, but not enough to completely reshape the family dynamics the way we want to. I almost laughed out loud. Even in their worst-case scenario, they were still planning to steal millions from me and restructure my family's business. Their greed was absolutely breathtaking. There's something else, David said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. If Emma gets really desperate, she might try to hurt you or the baby. What? Maya's voice shot up in alarm. Emma would never hurt me. She's my sister. Maya, think about what we're taking from her. Her fiancé, her inheritance, her place in the family, her entire future. People have done terrible things for much less. You really think Emma could be dangerous? I think Emma's about to lose everything she's ever cared about, and people in that situation can become unpredictable. We need to be careful, especially as your pregnancy progresses. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. Not only were they planning to destroy my life, but they were also setting up a narrative where I was the potential villain, the bitter ex-fiancé who might resort to violence out of jealousy. Should we get security? Maya asked, fear clear in her voice now. Let's not go that far yet, but we should be cautious. Don't meet with Emma alone, don't go anywhere isolated with her. If she starts acting erratically, we document everything and use it to show your parents that she's become unstable. This is getting really complicated, Maya said, and I could hear doubt in her voice for the first time. Maya, look at me, David said firmly. Do you want this life or not? Do you want to be my wife, the mother of my children, the future of the Richardson family? Because if you do, we have to be prepared to fight for it. I want it, Maya said, but her voice was smaller than before. Then we do whatever it takes to protect what we're building. Emma had her chance at happiness and she took it for granted. She treated our relationship like a business arrangement, something she could manage and control rather than something she needed to nurture and fight for. You're right, Maya said, her voice growing stronger again. Emma always thought she could have everything on her own terms. Well, life doesn't work that way. Exactly. And when this is all over, when we're married and our child is born and your parents see how happy we are together, Emma will realize that this was always meant to happen. She'll understand that we did her a favor by setting her free to find someone who actually deserves her. Do you really believe that? Maya asked. I have to believe it, David said softly. Because the alternative is accepting that we're destroying an innocent person's life for our own happiness, and I can't live with that kind of guilt. Neither can I, Maya whispered. But as I stood there in the hallway, my phone full of evidence and my heart full of rage, I knew that guilt was exactly what they should be feeling. Because they weren't just destroying my life. They were about to discover that the predictable Emma Richardson they thought they knew so well was capable of things they had never imagined. I had heard enough. I knew everything I needed to know. Now it was time to show them exactly how unpredictable I could be. I quietly backed away from the door and slipped out of the building, my mind already racing with plans. They wanted to play games with my life. Fine. But they had just made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated exactly who they were playing against. The war was about to begin and I intended to win.